It's 6:01, and I'll call the meeting to order for the Greater Rutland County Supervisory Union. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order of business is to approve the agenda. I'll take a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by George. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. General public comment. For public comment tonight, if there's anyone who wanted to speak, I'll have 3 minutes for each speaker. So with that, I'll open up for public comment. Did anyone have any comment for tonight?
I just have a question. That I noticed that the GRCSU, do I just state my name and where I'm from?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry. I remember the Corey Valley.
And your blood type.
Oh, typo.
At least your name, just your name.
Okay, Marcia Turner, and I live in Rutland town. I noticed the GRCSU school board meetings are here at the central office, but I noticed the other school district, school boards meet like at different schools. And I was just curious, do the school boards decide on that? Or like usually like Corey Valley decides and Wellspring decides and Rutland Town decides, and how that was, instead of everyone meeting here as a central location for all the school board meetings?
Yep, each board decides where they want to meet and how they want to meet,
All right, thanks.
all that stuff. So, okay, did anyone online have any public comment? Okay. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. So we have.
Sorry, I have one. I just didn't hit the right button. Eric, I just wanted a question. So how many vans does the district own at this point? It just seems like the number keeps growing, and I'm really not sure why. And it sounds like we have a van for like one person here and there, and there's no consolidation that can be done to cut back the cost on that.
I think we can, if you want, Tammy, we can get you the information and I can email it to you.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, onto the consent agenda. So we have the minutes from July 1st and the warrants. We take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Any questions on the warrants or the minutes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we have superintendent's report. I think, I wasn't sure if Chris was even going to be here, but I just think it's informational. So if anyone had any questions or concerns, I guess now would be the time to ask any questions. And then the same with the superintendent's report. Okay.
Yep.
All right, moving on to personnel. So we have contract recommendations, informational only. Any questions on personnel contract recommendations? And on to resignations. Okay. All right, moving right along. On to finance. So it just says monthly reports, but were you going to talk about the?
Yes, yeah, so in the packet was my report on the year-end close for both the general fund and the special ed fund. So the general fund ended with a surplus in the amount of $208,000 for the general fund. And I've provided the reasons for that surplus, as well as the breakdown if that money was to be refunded based on the way it was assessed back in the beginning of 2025. It would be refunded the same way. So the majority of the surplus is due to three reasons. So our revenue was up by approximately $86,000, and that was mostly due to ESSER 3 indirect funds that we can take. So every federal grant we receive, we're allowed to take what's called an indirect revenue from it, and that's to cover expenses that are not covered in the grant. Usually it's for like payroll, business office type expenses. So the ESSER grant closed out in September 30th, 2024, so we were able to take the remaining indirect revenue from that grant, which did give us an increase in revenue. So that's the last year we'll have that. And then the other two reasons, so fiscal services and technology were both underspent by approximately $60,000 each, and those were due to the position reductions that we made in the spring of 2024. So those reductions were made after the budget was already set. So we saw savings in 2024. We also saw savings in 2025 because the budget was already set. And then when we set the FY26 budget, we also saw those savings. So this surplus has not been refunded yet. My recommendation would be we bring this back up again during the budget season and kind of as we're looking at our budgets, decide how we want to handle the surplus. For the special ed fund, we ended with a surplus of $133,000. Again, I provided how that would be refunded if we did refund it. And the main reason for that surplus is that our special ed tuition and excess costs that we pay to schools outside our SU, we had savings in that. And some of those savings were offset by the start of the Connections program. So we opened our own program, and so a lot of the students that went outside our SU started tuitioning inside our own SU, so that resulted in a net savings. And then I also have listed some of our other balance sheet accounts and what our balances are. So we currently have $125,000 in food service fund, $18,000 in our MAC grant fund. We have $55,000 in our HRA reserve fund, $23,000 in Medicaid, $3,000 in miscellaneous grants, and $25,000 in the Jewel account, which was a lawsuit fund that we received revenue from. Any questions on this? The special ed funds also have not been refunded. Again, my recommendation when we start our budgets to bring this up again and discuss how we want to handle that.
Who decides how to use the Jewel money?
I would say it's the superintendent or a combination of the superintendent and the SU board.
And have we expended any of that money?
No.
I think it would be a good idea for like an October meeting if we have recommendations about either from building admin or from in addition to the superintendent about how to use those funds. I know that at the VSBA, there's a lot of talk about vaping and how to use that to bring speakers in and those kinds of things. And I'm assuming that it has to be used in some capacity like that for preventative or...
There's no regulations on how it's spent.
Oh, so you could spend it
on
to...
anything. We can supplement our budget with it.
Oh. But it's $25,000 for the SU.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. That seems odd that you get money back from a fund like that and you can use the money anyway. I do think it would be advantageous that money was returned to the SU, to individual districts, not special ed money, but other money, so that as districts start building out their budgets, you have that money. I'm not sure what the advantage is to hold the money until we talk about the budgets.
So the main options that we have used in the past is we can either use these funds to offset the SU budget, which would then lower the assessment, which is in a way giving it back because your assessment for FY26 would be lower. We could refund it in the current year, which is on budgeted revenue, so it would just flow down to the bottom line. Or we can refund it in FY27, and it would just be a budgeted revenue on everyone's books for FY27. So all three of those options give the money back to the districts. It's just a matter of which form you want to give it back in. So if we just start, when we look at the first draft of the SU budget, we can bring it up then and decide how we want to handle it.
I guess I think like the funds, the revenue, the general fund should go back to the local districts, and those boards should decide how they want to use those funds. And I think that I'm happy with putting that on the agenda for September, but I think the special ed obviously stays at the SU level and can be, used in that capacity, but I think the general funds, and I think historically that's kind of what we've done, is given general funds have been refunded back to districts.
We've done it in several different forms over the last few years. Sometimes we've given it back in the current year, and sometimes we've given it back the following year as so that they budget for it.
Right.
So it's just a matter of deciding which year you want the districts to receive those funds in.
What's the timeline for budgeting this year? Are we gonna start in September, October?
So we'll look at the first draft in September is when we look at the timeline, and October we'll see the first draft of the SU budget, and November we'll approve the SU budget, and then we'll see the first draft of the local budgets in November.
Just like last year, okay. All right. So, I think it makes sense that if we're gonna be looking at any of these surpluses, to do that when, we'll start looking at budget. Yeah. Anything else?
Why is the food service so significant?
So it's actually a lot less than it was. So as of last year, we had almost 300,000 in food service funds, and it's high because over the last few years, the rates that we were getting back were significantly higher than what we were spending. So we were ending with surpluses the last few years. We used.
Getting back from the
Yes.
federal.
Yeah. So our revenue coming in was more than what we were spending on the meals. We used a lot of those funds this past year to upgrade equipment in all of our schools, new refrigerators, stoves, things that have been in the schools for quite a while and aging, and replace those with new equipment that would hopefully make the meals a lot more efficient and effective. We ended this year with a surplus as well. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but the food service account ended with a surplus. If you take away all the equipment that we purchased,
Right.
just look at revenue for the food and the expense for the food, we ended with a surplus as well. We've also been using these funds to pay for the Healthy Foods program, which is the person that goes into all of our schools and does a healthy foods nutrition, and this year she also started the garden program.
So were the gardens paid from this too?
They were a combination of local grants as well as the food service funds, yeah. The last 2 years they were paid for out of ESSER funds, but after ESSER funds ended in September, we used these food service funds.
That could change going forward,
As far
the
as,
money we're getting from the federal government.
well, the rates change every year for the regular food service program, yes. As of this time, it's still,
We
the federal government only pays for free and reduced students, and then the state supplements for the universal meals, which provides the free lunch and breakfast to everybody.
Any other questions for Louis? All right.
I'm just going to briefly let you know about our other districts, and then I'll be providing a report in each of the local boards, but I won't be, I'm not around next week, so, but if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me. So Rutland Town ended with a surplus as well of $265,000. Corey Valley ended with a surplus of $535,000. Wells Springs ended with a surplus of $121,000, and Ira ended with a deficit of $38,000 due to an increase of tuition students. Their whole budget is tuition students, and so one family with a couple students moves in and kind of throws their budget out of whack. But those reports will go into the packet, and if, like I said, if there's any questions, feel free to.
Will this report be in local budget packet or local board packets?
It can be, if you like it.
I would like it to be in our packet. I think it's important. It should be a discussion at local boards about the general fund. I think that's a discussion that should happen at local boards, not just here. And it has in the past,
Okay.
so.
You're referring to the surplus, right?
Yes.
Statute surplus, yeah.
Yes. And is there anything else down below in the other surpluses that can be used in any capacity? I mean, we know food service stays food service, but the miscellaneous grants, are there restrictions on that money?
So the miscellaneous grant, yes, that's specific to so part of that is a safety assistance grant from Visbit, and part of it is a cyber grant from Visbit. So those have specific requirements for those. The Medicaid funds, there are guidelines to that, and in the past, we've used this to fund our Medicaid clerk, our preschool or early ed coordinator. We fund a portion of our special ed administrator salary that's not special ed related for 504 work and EST work. We fund a portion of our psychologists that's not special ed related. The MAC grant, we've funded Girls on the Run and our tutor program.
Mm-hmm.
And the HRA reserve fund are the funds that we use for our HRAs.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, like the Jewel, if there's anything else like
So
that.
Jewel is really the only one that's
Okay.
not specific to anything.
Thank you.
Is that all you have?
Yes.
Any questions on the monthly reports also? I don't think there is. But. Okay. So we'll move on to old business. So at our last meeting, we had our retreat, and we talked about our board priorities and goals, and so the communication committee came back up, and so we put this on the agenda to basically see if the board wants to continue with this committee. And from what I understand, the committee only met once, and so it still exists. So we'll open up for discussion. Any thoughts? What we can get out of this, or if it's even needed. And I think last year it was, or this year, primarily centered around the budget communication too, but and who was on that committee also? It was
Colin.
I know Colin,
Mike, I think,
Yeah.
And myself.
and Tim, yeah.
okay. All right.
I feel like the superintendent, took care of the issue, I guess, that most people had with respect to the budget and the communication portion of that, in my opinion, with the way it is on the website. And I know that when we've talked about it, they said a lot of people didn't go there. but the information is there. And I think that was the most important piece about having it there. So like, as a board member, you could drive people to that and everyone's receiving the same information. It's just not like being piecemealed. I don't know, it's difficult to assess a committee that's only met one time when I feel like the superintendent did the bulk of the work. That was the concern that kind of generated the committee, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I know that was one of the components to the committee was the, the budget piece to it. But I really didn't understand or know like what the, the actual direction the SU board was given the committee other than that. But if, and I think that's why, this, we're having this conversation, because if we're not going to continue the committee, it needs to be a board decision. Did you have a?
Looking at the goals, goal number 2 about making the statement on H454, which we should probably change in the goals to Act 73. Part of that, I think, was providing information or opportunities for information to the general community about what is happening, possibly open discussions on what the ramifications could be. So the committee might be helpful there if that's its goal, and we give it a little bit of direction. It could come in handy. It all depends how far we want to go with reaching out to the community.
Linda?
Yeah, thank you. And I was thinking the same thing, and that is because on the action plan that the superintendent shares, a strategic action plan, the strategic plan 20 through 2028, and community engagement is a part of that, of one of the 3 parts that is important. So that was the one that I thought the school board could support well and work together with the superintendent plan. So it seems like it should be beefed up and made stronger, because it is also one of the school board's rules is community engagement and communication. So it seems to be important. I would really want to make it stronger.
Okay. Anyone else?
I actually think we met twice, so
Sorry.
sounds a little better than once. And I thought the dialogue was good, but it was simply that, because we were just like grasping for board members who have other priorities in their lives, right? Getting together saying, how do you think we can connect with the community? How do you think we can, and like I had said at other times, like we're going against the governor's statements that are getting every bit of press in every corner of the state at the time, and just looking for sort of outside the box opportunities. So I thought the dialogue was good, and positive, and I think like certain aspects of that did find its way into this, what Chris created and things like that. I guess my concern with whether or not like the committee piece is like how much is going to get placed on that committee, right? Because I was pretty sure we were looking at, at least discussing like a communications director or something, and then we don't have that. So like, all right, well, let's just have a committee and have the board do all this, or so I don't know if it's necessary. I mean, but maybe if it's like a quarterly meeting or something like that, opposed to like a monthly, just to kind of get some conversation going outside of the agenda, because I mean, that conversation, like, we probably would spend an hour, hour and a half, like, just having dialogue and trying to get some things going. And if we took up our agenda time in a general board meeting, then these meetings are gonna get excessive. So, so I'm on the fence. I mean, I've been on committees that actually, you know, it's pretty narrow in scope, but this particular communication committee is very, very broad. So, like I said, so it was good dialogue and everything, but simply that's what it was, you know.
Okay. Linda?
Just wanted to add that maybe there just needs to be a focus, because it is so broad, as you're saying. If there was a certain focus that needs to be communicated, you know, it could start there. I don't know how that will happen, so, you know, I guess that would be the first job of the committee.
Okay. Lisa?
I think with respect,
I'm sorry, were you done, Linda?
oh, sorry.
Okay.
I think with what George said with respect to Act 73, I think perhaps if we just, Chris provides amazing synopsises in his superintendent's report from all different avenues about 73. If we took that and ask if that was put in all building admin newsletters, so everyone's receiving exactly the same information that we're receiving here is going out to our educational community. Because I do think that it is a very concise picture of what is happening, because Chris is more in the mix of it and more up to date than even any of us that are going to sit on a committee with respect to 73, in my opinion. And secondly, while I concur community engagement is incredibly important, I don't think, and I've said this before, community engagement looks the same across all districts. And that's why sometimes I think it's difficult to do that at this level and then try to spread that out. Wells Springs has their own way. I mean, don't you have a community engagement
Well, that's
committee?
what I was going to bring up, actually.
Yeah, so I just think like in Proctor, we do things a little differently, and I'm not sure that we need to recreate those wheels. I think that people have a good feeling or an understanding of what works well in their individual communities. I think maybe we just need to do a better job, particularly with 73, of sharing that information outside the education community.
That's where we're missing the boat.
And so, and maybe that is at select board meetings, maybe that is, using our municipalities to share that information. And get it out in that capacity. Maybe you do it at libraries, maybe you do it at, your skate rink or things like that. But I think just having a committee to kind of do the work that someone else has already done isn't the best use of people's times, I
think you have two very specific parts of your communication. You have the what you're going to communicate, and you have how you're going to communicate. That's really about as simplified as you can be. And if you go in the direction Lisa's talking about, it's a lot of different ways to communicate that aren't going to get homogenized into your committee. In Middletown, Wells Springs, we've created a vehicle for communicating beyond our website, and that's something you can choose to do or not. Whether it's just a piece of like what Lisa's talking about, if you've got that and you've got your skate park or your basketball game or your soccer game, front porch forum, all those things. But I think like what we're seeing is incredible. The metrics are telling us who's hitting, how many people we're hitting. It's pretty effective.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's driving into all those places in addition
So if you're finished, adding on to what Meredith and Lisa have said, it is slightly different in each member group. Maybe if you guys stay together, the first thing is to take a look at each member. What are you doing in the way of communication? What's your metric for measuring if you think it's successful? And then you guys make an analysis. Hey, this seems to be working, this could be better. And come back to the board and maybe we can make a decision at that point. Let's make sure each member is doing something that's effective. Because we are missing the boat with the non-educational community. All right? All the parents get the newsletters, their neighbors do not. So we need a way to get to them.
So you take out you guys don't need to worry about what's going in it. You're worrying about how to create it. The communication.
Got it.
I mean, that's what I'm seeing.
And maybe you guys.
Last year was like, we knew that it was, we were in the midst of our
The
third
budget,
budget at Rutland, so it's like, well, how can we make contact with people that we just simply aren't, and that, ended up, and like us individually, we're, as Rutland Town, we were like knocking on doors and handing out, like, physically trying to get information out into people's hands. So that was what the conversations were during those couple committee meetings, like, well, how can we make more touch points, along the way within the community and how that would be. So now we're on to what?
73.
Yeah, Act 73. And how do we deliver that information?
And I think that's exactly what Meredith said. It's the delivery of it. I think just taking what Chris provides is effective and digestible information that people can read, even if you're, it's like a soap opera. Even if you're picking it up, 2 seasons later, you can still be part of the conversation, and it's easy to become invested in it the way he provides that information. And I think for some people outside the education community, that's part of it. They feel like they don't really know what's going on. But if we're providing that to them on a monthly basis, up-to-date information, and maybe you guys have a meeting and decide if you think that's something that the committee needs to do, or if that's something we need to look and do on a different level to sharing that information out.
Yeah, so, when we first started talking about this last year, this year, that was one of the first things that popped in my mind was like, well, how do you do this community engagement at an SU level? Because we're so vast, and the way Well Springs did it, we're a lot closer. We figured out how to do it, and so if this committee does anything, my thought would be that to determine, the best way to reach everyone within the SU, and that right there is, a huge task, and that's kind of what I would say that the committee could do is, bring recommendations back to the SU board on how best to reach all these, communities, stakeholders, whatever you want to call it, within the supervisory union, because it's different from each town, but so Linda.
Yeah, I would make a proposition that I wonder if sometime in October, I'm thinking, before budgets are really getting set in stone, that representatives from the different schools get together and share, because there's amazing things going on. I don't know what you're doing, how would I? I would love to hear somebody from each place, because in Rutland Town, we've done some amazing things too, but you don't know what we've been doing. So it would be such a good starting point to just have this sharing. And then, maybe the communication committee just goes to the school district, like we would do our own, you do your own, but just to share out first would be really interesting. I wonder if it can happen.
Well, that's kind of principal reports, isn't it?
What's that?
The essence of principal reports.
Yeah.
I suppose, but I would like to hear from the actual people that are doing this community engagement. Like, what do you do over there? I don't-
from other boards within the
Yeah,
Oh.
and a representative from each
Oh.
town, just to tell what's happening. It'd be so interesting, because, you know, that's how you grow. You just hear from each other, and then do it your way, based on what you need to do, but it'd be good ideas that way.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like that this communication committee or community engagement committee, whatever you want to call it, is probably something that we should keep, based off what I'm hearing. But as far as, the work being done, maybe, like I mentioned, start off with, finding best ways to communicate with all member districts within supervisory union, because if you can't reach the people, then that was the first thing we did in Well Springs, and just for context, we had a community engagement committee. I think the committee existed for like a year or so, and we went through and we established various different ways to reach people, really trying to engage folks, and then ultimately there was nothing else for the committee to do, so we just roll it into our agenda every other month. So, yeah. Okay.
I think the important thing is that what you mentioned earlier, which is getting beyond the school community, and George mentioned too, and that's really key.
Yep. So, in terms of who wants to be on this committee, and Colin's not here, so I don't know if let's see, Tim. I don't know if you still want to be on it. You said Mike was on there too?
I think.
It was me, Mike, Colin. I thought George was, but maybe not. You weren't there? Huh?
I thought it was just 3, but I could be wrong. Because I thought you only...
I'm not participate. That's right up my alley.
Yeah. Well,
I think Owen had said he was going to be on a communication committee, but maybe that was just a Rutland town, right, Tim?
No, that was this
He's
one.
on this one.
yeah. Well, I'll reach out to Colin to see if he still wants to be part of it. I guess if anyone else is interested, speak up tonight, and we can go from there. I think it's we just need a couple of dedicated individuals who want to try and work on this.
Do they have to be SU board members?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an SU committee, so the SU committee would report.
Because I know Amanda, I think, had mentioned being interested, but she's not
Yeah, she's
a
not
regular
here.
member.
There's Murdoch, so.
But, yeah, well, I think with it being a committee created by the SU board, then it would be, that committee would report to the board, and so.
But what about, policy committee doesn't have all SU board members?
Yeah, I know it's I guess it's really up to the SU board, but that was just my thought on this, but.
I think if somebody wants to join a committee,
Yeah, really. If someone is interested to do the work that we know
yeah.
and trust, and all the board's going to do is make recommendations to this
Right.
board. The committee's going to recommend things to the board.
I mean,
So-
I don't think it should be a committee of 15. I
Nope.
mean, I think if you have
That's
like
too big.
Okay.
5 people
So-
or something, with some level of, I don't think,
Has to be diverse between
Yeah.
the SU and
Yeah.
between the
Okay.
members.
So, I mean, that's fine, since
I
we don't
think
have
they-
people jumping out of their seats.
no, but I think if you're interested, that they should contact you, and then if there's more than that, then that's a decision that could be made.
Okay.
If
Part
this
of the
board's
reason I
happy
bring it
with
up
that
too-
person,
Yeah.
then we can approve or disapprove.
Part of the reason I bring it up is because, like people on the Wells Springs have been through the ropes with Greg and understanding sort of the tech end of some of the
Yeah.
options.
So they should be the leader, more of a,
Okay.
yeah,
It could be-
informational.
It could be helpful.
Yeah,
And just to mention too, when we started the communications committee at Wells Springs, we had seats for
Yeah.
for the local support groups, Friends of
Yeah.
Education and PTO.
yeah.
They didn't always attend, or if they did virtually, because why not?
Well, I think at this point, we should try to create a committee of board members
Mhm.
and then try to come up with, what those directives are going to be for the committee.
Okay.
Mhm.
Like the directive sounds like, how are you sharing information outside the educational community? That would be like directive one, something like that. So maybe at the next meeting, people from other boards that could go on to local boards, since we're all meeting here in the next week. And, even if each, outside of the people that are currently on it, Mike, Tim, Colin, if people outside of local boards that want to join, then they should,
Okay.
your email should be, you could provide something to put in the packet, and they could contact you, I
Yeah,
think,
so-
would be appropriate.
That's what I was gonna suggest, is with all the other boards meeting next week, if that's something that we can have.
I think that's great.
At least, it can be talked about at those meetings. Reach out to me, bring it back in September.
Yeah.
And, I guess we can decide then how many people do we want on this committee too? Because,
Well, I think you
originally
should-
the conversation is, we had 3 people from the SU board on this
Yeah.
committee, so I thought we'd stick with that, but again, it's
I
whatever
don't
the
think
board
you should
wants.
probably have more than 2 from each local board. I think that's probably a sufficient number. So, and you could have that in addition, I guess, if,
See what kind of response you get
Yeah,
first,
well,
and then we'll
that's what
take
I
it
would
from there.
refer to.
I don't think we're looking for more than 5 people.
yeah,
You get too big, then it gets cumbersome.
yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. That
If
sounds,
if we get 14 people that want to be on it, we'll create another committee.
They'll be communicating.
Subcommittee.
Yeah, we'll have a communication
You
subcommittee.
guys work on this, and the rest of you go out for
There you
supper.
go.
okay. All right, we'll do that.
That's a bridge to worry about when we get there.
Okay, so we'll have this, we'll finalize this in September. But it sounds like this is something that is important enough to keep,
Yeah.
especially around Act 73.
Yeah, and I think in the interim, I do think that we could just ask, have Chris ask building admin to start including his report in their newsletters, as an addition. I don't think that's problematic.
That's not
I don't know.
unreasonable at all.
We can see what he says in September. Okay, all right, cool. So with that sorted out, we'll move on to, well, before we move on, anyone else have any thoughts, suggestions, questions on the communication committee from the board? Okay. All right, on to new business. So last month, we met, reviewed, went over some board goals. And in your packet is the draft of them. So after that meeting, I had like a post-meeting with Debbie Singheiser. And we talked about the meeting, and she had some suggestions for some language and for the goals that we did not have. I guess we didn't, we kind of ran out of time during the meeting, if you guys didn't notice. So within that, if you look at goal 1, we decided to keep the goal of the board evaluates the effectiveness of community engagement and public communication efforts. she had suggested the language below, but I kept the old language above just for reference. It's the same document as before. This is regularly and consistently engage in two-way communication with the GRCSU community and evaluate itself at least once on its community engagement and public communication efforts. So the I don't want to say goal, but the point tonight is that we finalize these and approve these for this year. We'll open it up. We'll just take one at a time. Start with goal one. Any discussion, questions, concerns, any edits behind or about this goal? I mean, it does align with our previous discussion, so.
Her goal or our goal? I mean, her goal is the one that's on
Yes.
goal one, right? Our goal is in parentheses.
Yep.
Yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
hers, yeah. Yeah, because if you look at the original goal, it says the board evaluates the effectiveness of community engagement and public communication efforts. I mean, the huge piece to that is that we needed something to evaluate on, and I think some of that work was missing.
Why was two-way included, do you think?
I don't know.
She's using walkie-talkies.
Well, I'm just wondering how you manage that, and then how you measure that.
It could be as simple as like the website we have where people can answer surveys or leave comments or something like that.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking
Is
of,
there a clear way for people in general to do that to Greater Rutland County?
And, I mean, if you don't like the wording too, I mean, we can amend it. I think it definitely has to fit in a way where we understand exactly what it means in terms of each goal, so.
And I mean, look at the comments about the buses that you received. Now we're all aware of it, but are comments like that being made to different people in our SU here that we're not getting feedback from? I don't know. And down the bottom under action steps, where it's form a engagement communication committee to draft a work plan, should we be drafting something for the committee, like here's some things we want you to look into, or give them a more definite mandate? Here's what we want you to do. So they're not, wasting time debating. If they've got a goal to reach, then start on it.
Well, didn't we have a communications survey like 2 years ago?
I'm talking about to the committee. Here's what, you're the committee, here's what we want you to do, more specifically than we did the first go-round.
And a lot of these action steps too are from when we first did this, which I think was late last year, if I remember
No,
correctly.
I know that, but should we change that?
Yes.
Should we
We can
add
change
that
any
in?
of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
add that in, that we're going to give them a mandate, at least 2 or 3 things, here's what we need you to work on.
Yeah. So I guess, it depends too, going back to your comment, Meredith, and what does two-way communication mean? I mean, I guess that can be, a lot of it could be like community forums, it could be, yeah. But does it have to be? Does it have to be in there?
regularly and consistently engage in two-way communication. I don't know, I just find that a bit cumbersome.
Yep. You can just take out,
Two-way.
yeah. I'm fine with that.
I'm not against it, I'm just saying we have public comment, we have
Yeah.
places to leave, to ask questions, but to be bound to regularly and consistently becomes cumbersome.
I mean, I think that still works, and it works fine. Because it doesn't have to be two-way, honestly. I think the whole point is to really just share information, get information out there.
Make a good pass. And not be graded on whether or not they catch it.
Okay, so it reads, regularly and consistently engage in communication with the GRCSU community and evaluate itself at least once on its community engagement and public communication efforts. Is anyone opposed to that? Replacing our old one with this? Okay. And then, really quick on the action steps. You had some suggestions on the,
Form a community engagement communication committee with a defined mandate.
cool.
Which is largely just,
Giving direction.
yeah, defining that it's from this board as opposed to the local boards.
Yeah.
Well, also some guidance as to what they should be doing.
Right, right,
Not-
I feel like, especially during budget season, it's really easy to get muddled and be
Mhm.
thinking about how am I passing my district's budget versus how am I communicating information that affects the whole supervisory union.
Yeah, and it can be one or two things really to get them going. And again, I think if you just surveyed what we're doing now, because you need to know where we are before you can move in any direction. I think listening to the member groups telling you what they do, and they'll tell you what works and doesn't work, you guys will come up with your own ideas, like, hey, we can improve it by doing this. So I think it'll grow if we just get you started.
Okay. Any other action steps or changes to what's in place? And I think as far as like the action steps go, and that's a working document. Especially based off the feedback we got at the retreat too, that this document should be seen more often by the issue board. That was something that was mentioned, and so as we look at this, just like with any working document, there's ideas and things that we can add to move toward each of these, especially with community engagement. So if there's nothing else on number 1, we'll move on to number 2. Okay, number 2, this was a big conversation during our retreat, but collaborate in the school redistricting process as outlined in H454 by exploring and advocating for supervisory union structures that will support, minimize disruptions to student academic progress and wellness.
I'll change that to Act 73.
Yeah, we can change that to, anyone care if we change that to Act 73? I'm fine with it, it makes more sense.
I'm
to
not
me.
sure I'm not sure what that means for us to collaborate in the redistricting. We're not going to be we're not part of that. That's, and there's going to be a separate working group that's going to be created to determine like what new boards and like that will look like. So for me, I'm just curious, what do we think that means that we would be doing?
Advocating for supervisory union structures.
And so, I mean, it was the biggest part of our conversation at
No,
the
I
retreat, and everyone seemed to agree with this, in essence, that this was a priority for the SU board, and this is something that we should be focusing on. And I think to answer your question is, I mean, yeah, there's no guarantee that anything we do can influence the task force, but I can tell you now that that there are other boards, other board chairs, other districts that are already collaborating with each other. So,
And I thought that was part of this too, like allowing this board and the superintendent to reach out to other SUs and see what they thought about combining, looking at possibilities and maybe coming up with a plan to offer the committee doing the study. Hey, we did something for you. You're looking for this area. Here it is. Meets your numbers, does the things you want.
I understand that. I just think that is I guess collaborate is a strange word because I don't know who we're collaborating with. We could be advocating for ourselves. We can be, I don't know. It just comes off as weird in my opinion.
What we don't want too is what already happened, like board members approaching our board members and suggesting stuff without us doing it as a group. If we want to contact, Bennington and talk about things, we should be doing it as a group, not one-on-one. So again, my feeling is we're authorizing this board and our superintendent to be able to reach out and communicate with other SUs.
I think in terms
That's the collaboration part, talking.
But in terms of this goal, right, this doesn't really, this just kind of sets like a priority for us on what we want to focus on. And this is going to be short term, because once the task force meets, draws their maps, makes their decisions, and then the legislature votes on it, I think that's it. There's a lot of ifs on what's going to happen with any of this, but I think the whole point of this is that whether we're collaborating or advocating, we're basically saying that we understand Act 73 has already been signed into law, but this is how we as an SU want to move forward. And I think by collaborating, you're collaborating potentially with other neighbors. This could potentially help the task force, especially if you're already having conversations. Who knows what's going to happen. I mean, one of the maps could look just like the 5 mega district map we saw. But I think there's just there's not a whole lot of time, and and I said it before, in our last meeting, was that I'd rather not just wait and see what happens, so.
No, and I know in the Northeast Kingdom, they're getting together. SUs are getting together, they're having conversations, boards are getting together and having conversations. I just think that, I don't know. I guess I would like to see us be doing more of that.
Yes.
So it's more
Yes.
out here and transparent rather than us this board talking to another board, the superintendent talking like that. I think it needs to be like, they just had one up in the Northeast Kingdom with the superintendent, board members and things like that. I think that is something I can get behind. The way I'm reading this, that's not exactly how I'm reading.
No, this was supposed to be all above board, okay, and transparent, so that our constituents see that we are working actively to keep their schools open, and to give them a modicum of local control.
Right, but that's what I mean. And so it's like bringing them into the conversation too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think this does not mean it's all behind the scenes, closed doors. I think
No,
this is something
that's what we don't want.
we want out in the open.
Yeah, that's what we
want-
don't want. That was
Yeah.
the point I was trying to make before.
All right, any wordsmithing to this goal?
And I'm not a wordsmith at all, but what about like participate instead of collaborate? Does that change the perspective of the language at all?
I don't think so. I think you can, I think there needs to be any kind of involvement, because even if you're engaging with the redistricting task force, I mean, you're still participating in it. Yeah. I think this goal can be pretty broad, but then when we start looking at action steps, we can get specific as well. Linda?
I liked what George said earlier, just saying work together as an SU, because isn't that what we hope happens? That, I mean, there's been so much work done to bring this supervisory union together since 2019 or 18, and don't want to lose anybody. We've worked together for academics, budget, special ed, all sorts of things. Work together as an supervisory union. I think that hits the nail on the head.
We need to step outside of ourselves, or we're not doing ourselves any good.
Yeah,
We worked together to, you've got to broaden, because we only have 1,100 students, you're supposed to have 4,000. So work together and, I don't know, something, you've got to work together to bring the, other districts on board. Just work together with the state, but I don't want to lose anybody.
Well, since this is so short-termed, I'm more concerned about what the action step is than the actual wording of the goal, because you can wordsmith the goal to death, but if we're not doing something, even in the next month, it really doesn't make any difference what the goal says, in my opinion. Because by December 9th, they're gonna be done.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's like, what's more important tonight is deciding what is an action step to hit this goal.
contact local supervisory unions nearby and start a dialogue.
So, before we move on to action steps, and I agree, let's finalize the wording on this too. So, I mean, Tim suggested participate in the school district redistricting process as outlined in Act 73 by exploring and advocating for supervisory union structures that will support and minimize disruptions to student academic progress and wellness. Yeah, is there anyone opposed to this language?
If you put participate and then at the end, put something about our students in our supervisory union.
Put what?
Like, that will support and minimize disruptions to the students in our supervisory union.
Well, that seems understood to me.
Well,
Yeah, I think the statement covers it, all students in the.
Maybe it should say,
not to paint a dark picture, but even if this, what we want, works, this is not going to be the supervisory union anymore. It's going to be much bigger.
Right.
But at least our members have some guarantee that they still will exist in some form. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to save Greater Rutland. We're trying to save our members.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Well, you know, simply, I'm surprised that we don't have, well, we haven't had board meetings, but I know there is a group of people needing to talk about the redistricting and work on this map. I would like them to address the board, like say, what have they been talking about?
They're not gonna address
They're not
it.
gonna-
No.
That's not gonna happen.
They're going to have public
They-
comment sessions where they're not going to listen again. So
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
They had their first meeting last Friday, by the way,
yeah.
and,
So I'm just curious what they
Okay.
talked about.
yeah.
Well, they're public. You can watch them.
Yeah, so I can send everyone the link to the information online, but you can, there's virtual options and everything. But from what I understand, there were like 90 people online. And, you know, it was their first meeting, so they did.
Introduce themselves and-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No matter what we do, someone's gonna be upset.
Okay, so, all right, so we're gonna move on here to the action steps part of this. So, we put, so last month, we had the statement Meredith read, that's in the packet, but that was one of the first action steps I put in there for, as an action step. So if we want to add additional action steps, I think, George, you suggested reaching out to our neighbors,
Yes.
other supervisory unions, to see, I guess,
Start a dialogue.
start a dialogue, yeah.
Dialogue.
All right, so we'll put that. Okay, anything else?
Find a way to communicate to our stakeholders what we're doing. I mean, we have this statement, which is good, but somehow we need to communicate to our
But isn't that part of,
members.
The first goal.
that's the
Yeah.
first goal.
I think that ties into the first goal very well.
This is an action step. We're going to contact local SUs. Let's tell everybody about it. How are we going to do that?
Well, I guess, what are we doing after we contact local SUs? Are we having a public forum? Are we inviting them, board chairs, and,
We're going to have to see we're going to have to get feedback from them. Are they interested in establishing a dialogue, yes or no?
who's
we take it from
who's
there.
doing that? The superintendent, the board chair?
So I would recommend that myself work in conjunction with the superintendent.
Okay, then I think
Keep
that
it
should be an action step.
Okay. Because we already had one superintendent and board chair meeting back in March or April, about H454. There was one meeting, it was a good discussion, and, but with the legislation constantly changing and moving, there was no reason to have another one. You know, now that we actually have legislation in place, I think now would be the time to really have
Mhm.
a meeting like that.
Well, I think the meeting needs to be, once the board chair and the superintendent reach out to abutting supervisory unions or districts, the meeting needs to encompass more than the board chair and the superintendent. That's where it needs to become a community forum or public engagement or whatever, however we want to dress it up. Because otherwise, it's doing us no good.
You might consider having them all meet first and see what they come up with in the way of ideas that we then present to the public. Not have them come up with ideas at the same meeting. You know what I'm saying? A pre-meeting to come up with suggestions.
I don't think that
That we-
I don't think that's the responsibility of the board chair and the superintendent. I think
Unless
that,
we authorize them.
that'll be a no vote for me. I think that needs to be more on a community. I think there need to be different discussions about 73. I do not think, to me, that becomes more of those closed-door conversations that we talked about. I think it needs to be out, and I think those conversations need to be live at these meetings. And I think that's what's happening in other areas where these conversations are taking place. That's my opinion.
Okay. I think we're kind of pressed for time. We don't want to muddle suggestions that these guys come up with, hopefully, that they would present back to their boards. And then we say, okay, we like it, we don't like it, we move forward with the public. You try to do everything in one big meeting, things are going to get muddled, I'm afraid.
It's already muddled,
So-
and that's the problem. I think that things haven't happened out here in one big meeting, and I think, muddled or not, at least the conversation is taking place in public. So,
It's got to be public, I agree with you.
I don't think something bad is going to come out of the meeting, whether you agree or disagree, or you feel like it's muddled. I think the fact that the conversation is taking place with other stakeholders, with other districts, with teachers, public like that, it is a good thing. That isn't happening, and it hasn't happened. The state's not doing it. No one's doing it. The only people that are doing it are going to be people like us that are inviting people to come and have those conversations.
Okay, we agree to disagree. I'm not saying to be untransparent, but I think if these guys need to get together and brainstorm, doing that by themselves is going to work a lot better.
Yeah, I think what we can do for now is, either way, to have any kind of collaboration with other districts. I definitely think the superintendent should be involved, and I don't want to be going out, reaching out to other board chairs. It feels kind of like I think the superintendent should be involved, similar to how it was done before. So,
I'm not disagreeing with the superintendent being involved.
I know what you're saying. So what I'm getting at though is, when Chris gets back, I'll let him know what we talked about, and if anything, we can finish this next step on how to take this next step in September as well. Because, I don't know, I think, there could be potential
The initial
issues.
contact part is simple. You're going to contact them
Yeah.
and see if there's interest.
But I'm not implying that this is all being done behind the scenes, Lisa, so.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, we'll agree to disagree. I think another month is too long to wait. You have till December, so.
Got
Well,
to
then what do
do
you
step
think?
one and reach out, right? See if there's interest.
Well, then what are you suggesting?
I think that if we're going to reach out to then we should reach out and we should see about setting a community forum for September. I don't think we need to come back in September and say, this is what we're going to do, this is what our action step is. I think we need to already be doing it. So if we're going to reach out to Slate Valley or whoever it is that we're reaching out to, I don't know, then we need to reach out to that superintendent first, see if they're interested, and then figure out where we could hold a community forum and have the conversation about 73. We should have a moderator. I'm sure superintendents have an idea of who could act as a moderator, or within every municipality, you have someone who acts as a moderator for your town meeting. So there's always that possibility as well. And I think meetings should be set in September. I don't think waiting in September to do this, to have a meeting in October, I think you're too far behind the 8 ball.
I see what you're saying now. Okay. So So in that regards, I put community forum in September as an action step. So if that's, is anyone opposed to that? So, I mean, if we're gonna do that, then we need to try and set a meeting date. But again, I think there's gonna have to be some communication involved to even try and find dates and all that stuff to have a September meeting. So, I mean, would anyone be opposed that, I'd reach out to the superintendent to try and schedule this? We can schedule meetings via email,
Yeah.
no problem. So,
I think having a community forum doesn't necessarily have to constitute us having a meeting. It can be organized by the GRCSU.
yep,
It's going to involve whoever else abutting us is interested. I don't think that we have to worry about that in setting a meeting. I think that date is predicated on who you reach out to and their availability or their willingness to do it,
okay,
in my opinion.
gotcha. I mean, I'm fine with that. I think community forums are good. They're another way of community engagement and
Hope we have something to present.
yeah, well, we got to start somewhere.
Yes, we do.
And
Even if you just have a meeting and have other SUs there and talk about options, and we put together an FAQ about 73, that's more than has been out in the public.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So I think that's a good start for goal number 2. And I do have some additional action steps on here. So, did anyone have any final thoughts or additions to goal number 2 before we move on? Okay. Goal number 3, we didn't come up with a goal number 3, but like I said, Debbie had suggested potential third goal, and in the conversation, and that's why it says proposed third goal in there. When we had this conversation, the strategic plan did come up in our meeting a couple times, and how it was, a priority for the SU as a whole. So we both kind of agreed that this would not be a bad goal to have on there, even though we're already doing things to support it. So I put it on there as a proposed third goal for the SU board to consider. And again, it was, in collaboration with the conversation with our facilitator. So I'll open it up for discussion if anyone had any, and it reads, support and monitor the implementation of the 23 through 28 strategic plan goals and the FY26 CIP goals by reviewing progress throughout the school year.
So the action step is to review the strategic plan reports? Or
That's
present
just
them?
one of them. I mean, that's something that we're already doing. I mean, those come quarterly and semi-quarterly.
Well, they come in principal reports too. We have reports and they say this ties to the strategic plan. We're doing this, we have even central office staff come and say they're doing X, Y, and Z because that ties into the strategic plan. So I think that's been happening for quite some time.
I'll just say, I think it is a good goal to have because the strategic plan was a huge step in the right direction. And it, by having it as a goal, it's something that, that is important to, and a reminder to continuously follow through and monitor, so. Any comments? Anyone opposed to having this as a third goal?
I thought it was on the work plan anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
That's
is.
what I thought.
Yeah.
Chris references it in every report. And so does Lisa about SIP, so. It's like an ongoing goal.
Yep, and, you know, it wasn't one of our previous ones, so why not? As far as action steps go, you know, I'd put strategic plan reports on there just because, but, again, you know, now's the time to, if there was any other additional action steps that we could put on there, to keep moving forward on this. It's open up for suggestions.
I think you could have encourage building administrators to include in monthly reports how work in their building is being tied to the strategic plan.
Anything else?
And you could ask the assistant superintendent to provide quarterly SIP updates. I mean, I don't think we need to receive those more than quarterly.
Okay.
It was on whatever the board work plan or calendar work.
The SIP,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on there
Yeah.
3 times. Or what? Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 times. So
Yeah.
seems appropriate.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so I think that wraps up the goals. And again, you know, this document will be in the drive and it'll be, well, it's already in there permanently. So everyone can review it at any time. And
I think it might be nice to have it in everyone's local board drive too. Even though they're SU board goals, they do encapsulate every local board. So it might be nice for all members to know what the GRCSU board goals are.
Sure. Okay. All right, moving on to superintendent evaluation process. So when we first kind of drafted the evaluation process, we had in there that we would, you know, just kind of go through really quick and evaluate and make any changes to this process for next year. So, you know, I'll say that, you know, doing this for the first time, was it in June? You know, I saw some things that we could make changes to. But what we had done is the executive committee last year met several times to develop the process. And I want to take feedback on this process and then update the superintendent evaluation process for next year, and then have it, you know, as a, you know, like a full, you know, ready to go document, right? No more editing and changing. So I think when we had, and I don't know, Eric, if you remember, when we went through a lot of this, once we get through this first process and we start working out a lot of the issues on the evaluation piece, things will just be more streamlined for each following year. So, you know, I'll start off and I'll say that the local evaluation survey that was out there definitely needs, it didn't have like a number scale or anything like everything else did, like a 1 through 4 rating. It was just questions. So I definitely think that the local evaluation piece needs to be updated, and again, this is something that the SU board would approve these changes as well, so. Anyone else? Does anyone else remember? We used the,
What meeting was that? Do you remember?
June?
June, but we don't have that because it was confidential. We
Oh,
did
right.
it back.
Okay.
So we don't have it to look at.
Yeah. The rubric isn't confidential.
That's
a
what I was
VSBA
looking,
rubric.
yeah.
So the VSBA rubric should be somewhere.
No, but I mean the actual evaluation that we,
Yeah.
the
No,
questions and like that is what I was saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The survey questions, no. But it still exists, so.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I have no issue with putting like 1 through 5 or something on there. I just think that the questions that were on the evaluation were not yes or no, that they required a short answer, in my opinion. And I think when things are just 1 through 5, it's way easy just to circle a number, and the accountability is a little off, in my opinion. I think that you need to explain your answer. I don't think there were questions, and maybe it was just the way they were worded this time, but they were not just, it was not possible just to say yes or no. So.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. And, you know, everything else had a, like I said, had a number attached to it. And when you took the responses from the local survey, there were no numbers to associate. And so, you know, one of the pieces with evaluation is you have, you know, this, the two different forms. You have like a summative form and then, yeah, so it really just didn't tie in, you know. It was just, so I think there's work to be done there. I totally agree. The other piece is that we had, the other survey was just for admin only, and it was around business man, I can't remember what it is for the life of me now. And that had a lot of, and that was part of the rubric that was just for the admin, because there were questions in there that we didn't even
Right, it was a separate form.
it was a separate form. I think that was fine. And we had more responses from that than we did from the board survey, surprisingly. So, yeah, but anyway, so I think that's fine. And then the VSBA rubric that we used, I think worked fine. So, Linda?
I could just vouch for the fact that we put a lot of time and effort into, you know, the evaluation that night. We stayed very late and were very thorough. So I thought that was, I'm wondering how useful it is to the superintendent. Do you have any inclination about how it was received? Because it was very
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, it was received well. I'll say that.
Okay.
So,
And, you know, because you have an evaluation, you know, it's useful and informative, so that's worthwhile then. I didn't have any problem with that. That was great.
yeah, and it was, in comparison to previous, it was pretty short.
Okay.
So I think, okay, so I think what we'll do is, you know, basically just opening this up for feedback on the evaluation process from the full board. the executive committee will go through, take any of this, and then we'll make changes and bring it back to the SU board, probably late fall, maybe in the wintertime, for the SU board to consider. And, you know, my objective with this is just to have the document ready to go and it finalized, and then we do our due diligence and, you know, evaluate the evaluation process. So, but if anyone else has anything else that comes to mind, feel free to reach out. Okay, and then on to Act 73 redistricting. So, going back to our board retreat, we had that SU statement Meredith read, that at the time the board liked, and that's why, you know, it was on the action plan as well. But what this does is it basically says to the task force that we would like to remain in a supervisory union, and we're willing to work with others in the process. So I had, this is the actual, the one that's in the packet, is the original one. But I had went through and made like a draft one, that had filled in all the X's and stuff. And I can read it, it's long, or I can try and share it.
It's longer than the paragraph that's on here?
No.
Yeah, I would imagine the only thing we wouldn't know would be including what districts we're reaching out to.
Yes, exactly.
That's the only addition.
Yep.
That obviously, you know.
Yeah. So I put the Greater Rutland County Supervisory Union being composed of the member districts of Ira District, Quarry Valley Unified Union School District, Rutland Town, Well Springs, moves to remain a supervisory union within a larger governance region to the extent practicable. And the reason why that's in there is because that's what's in the legislation, is the word practicable. Under the terms of Act 73, the Greater Rutland County Supervisory Union will submit our statement of intent to the new redistricting task force when it is established, and will reach out to contiguous school districts, including to explore combining into a larger supervisory union. Our purpose is to optimize cost savings and efficiencies where possible while maintaining local democratic engagement, oversight, and accountability in order to achieve excellent educational outcomes for our communities, children, and youth at a cost Vermonters can afford. And of course, this is completely amendable to whatever fits the SU board. And I was thinking of, as I suggested earlier, reaching out to, instead of specifying, we can just say neighboring districts.
Well, I think you can just take out the including XXX, and contiguous is fine.
Contiguous school districts, okay. All right. Linda?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
It's stupid, of course, but I've got to ask you, how is this work and this reaching out to other districts, how does that work with this task force that the state has in place, thinking a map? What if the group we reach out to is not in the area that they've designated? And how do these two things work together? Am I asking a stupid question? I don't.
No.
It seems like two different groups of people doing the same thing.
So I'll tell you that this comes from the Rural School Community Alliance.
Okay,
So Well Springs is part of the Rural School Community Alliance.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
the idea behind this statement is that the task force is already starting their work. But by advocating to remain, whether you want to be in a supervisory union or a supervisory district, is important, especially when they're drawing the maps. And, you know, without really just going on about Act 73, if let's say Well Springs were to be put in a supervisory district, it would vastly completely just change the governance structure and how the schools will remain. And it also affects school choice. So I think as an SU, you know, by saying that we would like to remain an SU, whether it has an impact on the task force is yet to be known, but
okay, just going to the task force then.
Yes,
This statement, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense, thank you.
so say that right in the beginning.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
yep. Anyone else? Any comments, questions, amendments?
I think if this statement is adopted this evening, that it would be to our advantage to not only include this statement, but, you know, what else we're trying to do and have that published in the Herald or wherever else to show that we are being proactive, so our communities do not think we are just, you know, waiting for the knock at the door. I think that allows them to, maybe for some to know that something is happening.
That's been part of what the Rural Schools Alliance was asking people to do, is put out a publication, or
Okay.
a
Yeah.
public notice.
Okay.
Exactly. And I know there's a bunch of other school boards who have already made similar statements.
Okay. I'm
And
just saying,
yeah.
we could adopt anything here if we don't, going back to that whole communication
Yep.
thing, if we don't share it outside of this room, it doesn't really have
We want
much
people,
bite.
we want people to start asking questions.
Right. Coming to meetings and, yeah,
Yeah.
so
I think
maybe
that's,
that's a nugget.
yeah, I think that's fantastic because I know there's a lot of what ifs with what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
different ways you look at it is, you know, there could be a way that significantly and negatively impacts, you know, everyone or
Yeah.
not. So, and I know, you know, Chris has said this at all the July meetings, talking about the foundation formula and how doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to, you know, you might get more money, but you're going to see a tax increase. So it just depends. There's so many variables and.
Right. And they haven't even factored in a million other things, so.
I know. Yep. Okay. So if everyone's happy with the wording,
Yeah, I would just take out including XXX and just
to say, reach out to contiguous school districts or,
to explore, yeah,
or neighboring school districts, or are you fine with contiguous?
whatever you'd like, contiguous or neighboring, it makes no difference to me. Whatever fits your fancy.
Doesn't matter to me.
Maybe neighboring, that sounds a little,
Okay. I mean, I'm changing it right here, so I don't.
And I'm sorry, it is Act 73, right? That is
Yeah.
454, okay.
Yeah, that was the first thing I changed.
Okay,
is-
great. It doesn't necessarily have to be contiguous. They've never had a problem with that before.
no, well, that's what she's
Ones that
saying.
make sense
So maybe
Makes
neighboring
sense.
is better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Contiguous before was Act 46 up in the Northeast Kingdom.
I mean, take a look at the map, the district map out there. It's, we know who our neighbors are.
There you go.
You know who the neighbor is.
Pick your dance partner.
Okay,
So do we need a motion on that to go forward?
yes.
So I would make a motion to approve the Act 73 GRCSU redistricting statement.
All right, any motion by Lisa, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, that's unanimous. All right, excellent. Okay,
And then could I just say, can you include that statement in local packets for upcoming meetings?
Mhm.
yeah,
And the question is, where will you send that statement? To just, send it to the Rural School Alliance, would you? And where else are you sending it? To the task force?
yeah.
Rutland Herald?
Rutland Herald.
Yeah, and it says in here that we'll submit
To the
our
task
statement of
force.
intent. So I think this is the statement of intent. We'll send this to the, and I already have the contact for the task force.
Oh,
So,
good.
Yep. Already have all their contacts. And I think that's it. And then as far as having this published, I will follow up with that as well. So-
Yeah, and I'd put it as many places as possible.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's it. All right, so if there's nothing else on Act 73, we will move on to general public comment. So, Tammy.
Can't hear you.
Do you guys, discuss or report out your resignations and your hires? What about your transfers between schools? Because you guys, all the IAs, special ed, and all them are employed by the supervisory union. Why don't you report out transfers?
There's no need.
Do if they leave one district and go to another.
Right, but I mean, people kind of want to know if, their child is working with one IA or SPED teacher, that they're no longer going to be in that school coming forward, that they've been transferred.
Oh,
Well, that would be the responsibility within that building to show that information. They're not reapplying and applying for a position. They're continuous employees, so there would be no reason to report that out. They've simply been reallocated based on need by the
Building admin.
building, well, not building admin, but by the Director of Student Services.
Yeah, it's,
But isn't it all determined at the SU level?
I said the Director of Student Services. But that's outside the authority of this board. They are not new hires. They are continuous employees.
Right, I know that.
yeah, if they move, especially if they're SU employees and they can move throughout the SU, that's an administrative component, so that's something that, yeah, we don't have to oversee.
We have no authority to oversee.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay, it's just a question. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I
Yeah, I
have a
thi-
number of questions, but does anybody else have them? I'll be quick.
Okay, yeah, okay, so you want me to go to you last?
Yes. If there's anybody else, go first.
So, anyone else online? Okay, doesn't look like it. All right, go ahead.
All right, so the first question is something similar to what that person just asked. I'm sorry.
Tammy.
Just hold them.
The contract recommendations and resignations, Are they posted somewhere? Is it like gonna be in the, is it in the
They're
minutes?
in the minutes.
For
They're
the-
always in the minutes.
Perfect, okay, because I know you don't say them out loud, but I just was curious about that, perfect. Louis, in your report, you talked about 3 things in the general ed budget that accounted for the SU $208,000 surplus, but I only caught 2 things. I saw revenue was up, and then you also talked about the fiscal year, and IT was underspent, but I didn't, you said 3 reasons. I didn't
Fiscal
catch the third.
services was number 2.
Oh, fiscal third.
Yes, which is the business office,
Yeah,
and then technology services, so
That's
like
what
your
I
department.
okay, fair. I put those 2 together, that's all, I'm sorry. And your goals, I think maybe Lisa answered this, the goals we posted on the websites then, what your goals are for the board, the ones that you guys discussed and voted on,
We
will be
can.
posted on the website so people
Yeah.
could actually see it, or?
Yeah, we can post them
I just-
somewhere. I mean.
How are we supposed to know as a public?
I mean, some boards will post them like on their agendas and stuff, but we have the vision and mission on the agenda instead, so, but yeah, I mean, it can be.
They'll be in the minutes.
Yeah, everything, like including, like the business manager's report, I mean, all this stuff is available on request. I'm pretty sure this is, I think, and then like, you know, for the, like the contract recommendations and the resignations, like, those, you know, those don't need board approval, those are like informational too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why another reason why we don't read them off either, but, yeah.
Yeah, just thinking of transparency and community involvement. You guys talked a lot about that tonight, so I'm just thinking, you're setting these goals, these 3 important goals that you value, that the community would also, it'd be good for them to see, like, these are the goals and these are what you guys have set in importance to, so that's why I just mentioned that. And the same vein with engagement, I think, what is it, let me just, I'm trying to read my writing, I'm sorry. I think you talked about that, I think thinking about what is happening in the schools to the people that aren't in the schools, and I think that you maybe mentioned a little bit to that. So it's not just Act 73, which is a huge concern across the board, but, and budget is also, but I'm also thinking about all the good things, and to have that spread out so that members of the towns can be like, this is what our school is doing, you know, these are great accomplishments that is happening, you know, that are happening in our schools. So I think that would also help with community engagement and for the non-parents and the educators that are in school, that we already get all that information, but some broaden that a little bit out there. And then when you guys talked about goal number 2, I just want to mention that Barstow, when it merged, that merger happened in 2018, well before that in 2017, Barstow had a community forum that I know I went to because we were talking about having them come and joining Rutland Town and Barstow, were thinking about joining. And there was a community forum that they opened it up and the public for Mendon and Rutland Town were able to go. I think we actually were at Barstow, where people came and talked about it and actually asked questions. The public actually asked questions about things pertaining to those, especially those 2 schools and the impact. So it has happened, but it was, 2017 that happened. Who decides what districts you're gonna reach out to? I mean, you talked about neighboring districts, but I mean, is it like everybody in the neighbor, like every single person? Every single district that is surrounding us?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
I didn't know.
Well, the goal is to have, at a minimum, 4,000.
Right.
So you're gonna have to start with that first and kind of build your way out.
4,000 were practicable,
Yeah,
so, you know, there may not be enough to go around, and I think there's a cap on it as well.
8.
Yeah, so,
Wow.
So that could
That's
be a
pretty
lot,
broad.
that could be a lot of neighbors.
Okay, yeah. And then I promise this is my last one, is you talked about the evaluation of the superintendent, and it said local, that must have been the boards, local boards would evaluate, and then building admin evaluated. And I didn't know if there was any thought in getting input from other stakeholders, whether it's staff people in relation to the superintendent and even maybe parents at that, to get feedback for that in that relation. So I just thought I would mention
No.
it.
The superintendent's being evaluated like on, I think it was like 7 key points. And, between the board's input and those who can offer insight on to any of those elements within the rubric that we use. And I can always share, if you want, the VSBA rubric that we use, and you can look through it. So that's why, it only extends to board members and the admin. But the admin was only for one section of it, and that was it. So, yeah.
I just thought different viewpoints and, like staff, meaning even staff, I would say even here at Central Office, staff interaction, not even just teachers and ESP, I'm just saying even staff at SU, of a different interaction than you have with the superintendent and with the building administrators have with him. My personal, interactions as the president, is different than my teaching,
So are you aware of any supervisory unions or districts that do that?
I've never asked, to be honest. I just
Okay.
thought it would be. I don't know. I'm sorry, and I wanted to bring it up. I just thought.
Sure.
I think it's,
Ideas are
I think
good.
feedback is important, evaluation is important. I mean, we have it as teachers and ESP, we are forming that finally, yes, for our district. So I think it's there's always room for improvement in everyone, and that's learning. I mean, that's what education is all about, is improving. So I just wanted to mention
Thank
a
you.
different layer.
Thank you.
Okay. How many school
Thanks.
board meetings do you go to a month?
How many? I'm coming to every one, you'll be seeing me. Sorry. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. All right,
One question.
of course.
Michelle Fountain, I'm teacher proctor. We're talking about the redistricting with Act 73, but another provision is class size. And if I read the law correctly, it said 26, 27 school year, 1 year. We don't meet minimum class size in some of our schools.
Yeah.
And I wonder, it seems impossible to me that you could do that in a year.
Yeah,
But
so-
I'm wondering what that conversation is at board level.
I think that conversation too, that's also an administrative element as well. But I think, if I remember correctly, it's, they had changed the class size. It used to be a lot larger, but I think it's average class size as
The
well.
3-year average,
And
3 years.
it's the 3-year.
But it's, for high school, it's 18.
but
Proctor,
it's
that's hard.
over a 3-year,
Yeah, I know.
and then you can apply for
A waiver.
There's
a
a waiver,
waiver.
yeah.
So
There's a
some
lot of
time in there.
stuff in there,
Mhm.
including the maps being approved in the first place.
Honestly, I think that's the least of their concern.
It just, the year is what got me. It said 26, 27. It seemed
Yeah.
awfully quick considering
is.
you're just starting the task force.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Well, it is,
and I
but
would've-
if you notice, they change the times
Yeah.
rather frequently.
That's good.
And there's, I think, just as Meredith said, there's a lot that's gonna happen in between there. We have maps, and this is just another mechanism. But, I will say that even when they had it, it was in the legislation. When it went to the Senate, it got removed. The class sizes and minimum school sizes got removed. It was the House who put it back in. And so, and I heard that no other state has minimum class sizes in their legislation. So, I don't know if that's true, but this being,
And they're really complex in terms of whether they're AP classes, or
Right,
music
right.
classes, or instrument, there's language
Yeah,
classes.
how you combined
Yeah,
grouping, so, which is 100% contradictory to what they were saying, 5 years ago, when they said, it's not a problem. I should be able to have 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, 12th graders, all in my class to teach, and I should just be able to differentiate between each group, because there's no reason they shouldn't all be in one classroom. And that's what the AOE said, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So
Yeah.
Now it's only 2
sometimes they
years.
don't always remember.
And I'll be honest, and I'll just say my opinion really quick on it, is that that was put in there to either forced consolidation or forced closures.
Right.
It's that
I
simple.
mean, that's what it looked like.
It is, and what does that mean? That means if you're, reducing, increasing your class sizes, so that way you can reduce your teaching force. And that would save money,
Hypothetically.
Yeah, exactly, hypothetically, but, so I don't know, like, I'm not gonna, I'll stop there, okay.
Well, they haven't even broached special education, so
Right, right.
there's a whole lot of things that need to be
Oh, yeah.
addressed, so.
It sounds like we need like 2 community forums just to talk about Act 73, because there's a lot, and, I don't
Maybe
even.
that's what we're gonna head towards, is like a quarterly informational forum on where we are with Act 73.
And I think the first one really is just getting that information out there, just conversation, even if it's just questions like this that we're answering, or,
Trying to answer.
yeah, or the superintendent, or like that, or taking the information down if we don't know to try to find it or whatever. That in and of itself, I think, is a productive forum, in my opinion. It's no different to me than when we had these Act 46, very structured, very, played out kind of productions, how we were going to save millions and millions of dollars with these consultants that came down and ran the forums. I think it's better to be honest and open, and Act 46 was not a progress where that happened.
Yep. And one of the things with Act 46, though, it was already set in stone, it was all laid out, you didn't, there was no, school districts had to go through the process, but with Act 73, it's not spelled out, we don't know what's
Well,
gonna
you don't
happen
know what the
until.
carrot is going to be. The carrot with Act 46 was
Taxes.
taxes. So they haven't decided quite yet what the carrot's going to be. They're going to have to do something like that with taxes again, because there's no way you can have a foundation formula at 15,000 and have people that are spending 11,000 and say, your taxes aren't going to go up, you're just going to get this much more money. So.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you for your comments, and that's
And
all
for
we.
coming, it's nice to have people come and talk.
Yeah, we had quite a few people. So, our next meeting, any agenda items, there's a bunch of stuff that we'll have to discuss. But I also, just for food for thought, is we need to designate a VSBA delegate next month, so that'll be on the agenda. But with that, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor of adjourning at 8, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.